One of the hardest days in which to preach is Mother's Day for me. I want to tell the truth in everything I say, so most of this is the truth. You have to put an illustration in here and there because it keeps the deacons from sleeping. I'll pay for that tomorrow. Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. And grandmothers. And great-grandmothers? Great-great-great-great-great-grandmothers? Okay. He criticized her pudding. He didn't like her cake. He wished she'd make the biscuits that his mother used to make. She didn't wash the dishes. She didn't make the stew. She didn't darn his stockings like his mother used to do. So when one day he went the same old rigmarole through, his mother turned and boxed his ears just like his mother used to do. Mother's Day. I'm going to take the word mother, take mother, M-O-T-H-E-R, and tell you something about each of those letters. And I pray that this will be of encouragement to you mothers and blessing to all of you. I think of the letter M, I right away think of music. I never did hear my mother sing, but she loved music. She would have the radio on. We didn't have a phonograph, but she had the radio. She would listen to that all the time. I remember her listening to WBBM, if any of you know Chicago stations. That's the news stations, 25 hours a day, news. Mother would always, even when she was sleeping, she'd have WBBM on. I said, Mom, what do you get from that when you're sleeping? Oh, I know what they're saying. I know what. Okay. That was fine. Okay, Mom. Evelyn's mother always had WMBI on, which is Moody Bible Institute. And it didn't have the 24 hours news, but it had Christian radio. It was Christian music all the time and speaking and so forth. But my mother did like a couple of hymns. What a Friend We Have in Jesus. She liked How Great Thou Art. Heard Bev Schaaf sing that many, many times. So M, for me, I think of my mother's music. None of us in the family really grew up with a musical talent other than turning the knob on the radio, except WBBM. That's news all the time. But anyway, Mom, thank you for the joy of music. Maybe your mother loves music too. And teenagers, does your mother or grandmother like your kind of music? What do we say? Well, anyway, music, it's part of life. I remember a song that when I was a young Christian that was being sung in churches and on the radio, and this is the way it goes. He can turn the tides and calm the angry sea. He alone decides who writes a symphony. He lights every star that makes our darkness bright. He keeps watch all through each long and lonely night. He still finds the time to hear a child's first prayer. Saint and sinner call and always find him there. The name of that was He. So music. I think of music. For the O, I think of, I don't know if it's a word or not, but I'm going to say it anyway. Onlyness. Onlyness. Is that a word? It is good. I can use it. Mother's onlyness. If we could go to Father with a question or with a problem, Go to your mother. And so I'd go to my 4 brothers. Go to Mom. She's got the answer. She's the only one that had the answer when I had to have whatever it was, usually when I hurt myself playing outside. My mother could take a cookie, well, let's say chocolate chip cookie, and she could take that round cookie and she could make that cookie, cut it and divide it into 3 equal parts. Equal. So my first brother got half, my second brother got half, and wait a minute. I just found out. I never had a cookie. No, that was not real. Okay, but my mother, I think, was omniscient. She knew everything about us. She knew where we are, where we were when we thought she didn't know. She was omniscient. She knew the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So she knows who spilled the quart jar of grease down her beautiful new stove on Thanksgiving Day. Well, I was the only one in the kitchen. She knew. How did she know? My mother was omniscient. She knew the who, the why, the what, the how. I got it a lot of times. She was omnipresent. She could have seen me wherever I was, I think. She could, just her, what she would teach me. And I would want to do something, and my mom would say that in my head. You don't do that. You don't do that. Mom's teaching was sort of not only omniscient, but omnipresent, always with me. I think my mom, in onlyness, was sort of omnipotent. Who rules the roost in your house? Father, right? Father, right? Corey? Father. But then, when the cookie breaks, go to Mom, right? Mom? Yes, I think so. If Mom said no on something, she meant no. So omnipotent, my mother, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. In fact, my mom, if she were standing back there, all she had to do was give me a certain look, and I knew exactly what she was saying. You do too, right? Children? Children? Be honest, I am. My mom was old-fashioned too, especially the clothes I wore. I would come down and I'm going to go to Sunday school and church. You're wearing that to church? Now that must be something that nobody ever said. To me, they did. Of course, we lived in Wisconsin. That's a little different. And my mother's oasis of love, her oasis of laughter, confidentiality, she knew things that my brothers told her that I never, ever knew. And she knew things I told her that they never knew. So I think of mother's onlyness, only one like her. And your mother too. M-O-T, I think of mother's thoughts. I think of her tenderness, her tears. Mother's corrections. You know, when she's, back in my days, they used to spank children when they weren't. I very seldom needed that. Okay. Where was I at? I was at my mom's knee. My dad could really wallop me, you know. But you know whose discipline was the hardest to take? It's my mother's. She'd send me to bed without food. She wouldn't talk to me for an hour or two. That hurt. Never told me I love you as she did every day. There'd be a day go by or two. She didn't say anything like that until I came back and confessed to her what I did, and I'm sorry. My mother, we all have those kinds of tears. And Jesus wept, the Bible tells us, at the death of Lazarus. The Bible tells us Jesus wept over Jerusalem. I think as a young boy, he must have seen his mother weep as well. John 11:35, Jesus wept. A Christian mother is one who teaches us how to weep over lost souls. People are friends that need to know the Lord, and she knows my mother knew what it meant to have a family that was mostly unchurched and didn't know the Lord. Mom, perhaps only you know how many tears you shed for your family to come to know Christ. Whiten fields, ripe unto harvest, those whitened fields, lacking the laborers, the gifts of prayer. Souls needing Jesus are waiting there. Lord, stir our hearts till thy word we share, reaping whitened fields, mother's tears. There were some things that mother could not talk about. She never, ever told me that she lost her baby girl, Judith. I never knew. I knew we took Mom to the hospital, and I knew it was, I guess, 3 or 4 days later, 5 days later, she came home. I never knew that I had a sister. I never knew her name even. There are some tears that moms here have and hold in your heart. God bless you in carrying those tears. My mom many times cried after we had gone to bed. We could hear her. But I remember when my oldest brother went into the service, first one of our family, and she cried because no longer was he under her care. And she prayed for my brother. So, M-O-T-H. I think mother's heart. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 13:13, now abides faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. Well, we could all stand right here, right now, on that word. We all know what it means for my mother, for our mothers, to love us. We all could fill a page. But I know that in filling this out for myself, whatever I felt, she was there to embrace me. And usually I was feeling down on myself. Whatever I needed, she was able to reach out, though she never had any money. Yet it's interesting because I would go and I say, Mom, I'm going to town. Do you have $1, Mom? And you know what? She reached in her pocket and she never had money. How did she make that so fast? Whenever I failed, she was there to pick me up. And whenever I worried, she was there to hug me. Mother's prayers, part of her heart. Mom did not know the Lord until after I was in the ministry. She knew the Lord the last few years of her life, but she learned how to pray silently. She could never pray publicly. She just couldn't bring herself to that, but she prayed silently. and at home in her own devotions. Mother was also a master of Yahtzee. Do you know Yahtzee? Everybody knows Yahtzee. Well, Mom always won. Always, always. You know what? I found out how she did it. And then I tried it with Evelyn and it didn't work. But she would take the bottom score, and I'm adding mine up and she's over here. Then she's writing a number down and, oh, you got 5 more than I did. I lost again. She was an expert at erasing. But of course, you all know that I let her win, right? She would like to shift numbers anyway. My mom, I laughed at her. There's another thing that you could get, if my mom were here, there's one subject that we could talk about that would just get her flying high. You know what it was? Politics. Politics. Now, I never say what I am because, anyway, she was staunch Democrat. And when we knew this, and me and my 2 older brothers, we'd get at home once in a while together, and all they would have to do is say, oh, Mom, did you hear what the president did? And then we'd say something, and she would just fly high. Oh, I thought you needed to know that. Okay. My mother also had a walk with the Lord that was very personal and very, very real and very consistent. After my dad died suddenly and without warning, she was the one that suffered a nervous breakdown. She was the one that went into the hospital. She was the one that came out, and it took her a long time to get over it. That was the days when she could pay the hospital $5 a week to pay her bill off, and it took her 11 years. $5 a week. That was Mom. Her heart of love for us never stopped, never. She wouldn't let us help her. That was Mom. I think of Mom's Bible too, because she loved to read her Bible. She had a Bible that was white on the outside. It was like a nurse's Bible, and on the inside, the pages were all yellowed. And that's the only Bible I had when I came to Bemidji, Minnesota, at Oak Hills Bible Institute. That was my Bible. I didn't have any other. But then I found out later I could buy my own Bible, and I did, and I gave this back to her, but she was very, very glad to have it back. My mother's heart, I'll never forget it. There's a book I've always treasured, that I'll keep wherever I'm led. It has brought me joy unmeasured. It's the Bible Mother read. All the pages are so fingered, many verses underlined, places worn where Mother lingered, where she left a tear behind. Yes, this precious book I'll cherish. I will read it every day, for its truth will never perish, though the world should pass away. In the Bible Mother read, many precious things are said. Though I once did stray, I have found the way by reading the Bible that my mother read. Mother, I'm thinking of her music, her onlyness, her tears, her heart, and I think her earnestness. She was earnest in what she was doing. She fixed our meals, and this is what happened in our house on Sunday. We went to church and Sunday school, and we'd come home to eat. And we had one big table right in the middle of our kitchen. And we had 5 boys at this time and 2 parents, so 7 of us. And I sat at this end, which was the tail, My dad sat at this end, which was the head. And all the food was there, and the plates were right in front of Dad. And he would dish out from all the bowls and put it right where you're seated. So by the time the chicken got around to me, there was only the neck left. The neck and maybe a wing. I never knew that a chicken had more parts till Evelyn baked it for me for our honeymoon. Anyway, Mom never thought of herself first. She made me every once in a while my favorite dessert, which is Jell-O with bananas and whipped cream. Mom did the laundry. She'd hang it out on the line. And in the wintertime where we lived in Wisconsin, that line would freeze, and that clothing from this end of the line to the other was all related. I mean, it was just solid ice. No wonder her hands were so tender and so red. But that's what she did because she loved her family. And she eventually taught me how to iron men's shirts. And I could do pretty well with that. Mom let me know, mow the yard. Well, in fact, she liked me to do it so well that it took her like four tries to get my attention. Tom, go and mow the yard. Tom. And I can't give you the fourth one because that did get me out of the house and mow the yard. I did mow the yard, the only one. Mother's earnestness. She was earnest. And I could tell when she was earnest and not just playing around or joking. My mom was also concerned that we as boys, 4 or 5 of us all together, that we would get to church and we would get to Sunday school. And it was just right up the hill from us, so we had no excuse that we forgot where it was at because it was right there. So Mom was serious about her faith. She was when she was a young girl, when she went and had the opportunity to take confirmation class in her Lutheran church. She learned the Beatitudes. She learned the 10 Commandments. So many other things that she learned from the Bible, and she could quote them to her dying day. It meant so much. That she meant it not only in her head, but in her heart. And that's what we did. We learned by pastor's instruction class. So that's what brings me down to the last letter, and that's the letter R. And I think of Mom's righteousness. Let me read this quotation. The prayers and influences of a godly mother are not lost. She may be poor and unknown. Her name may not be known on the next street. But if she prays and teaches her child to pray, she will be doing a great and lasting good. She may not be able to give her son a liberal education or provide him with a position, but she surrounds him with an influence and sets by him an example that will be lasting throughout his life. Nothing on earth is as important to the home and to the family and to the piety and to the love of a sincere family than mother. My mother, you do not know how much I rejoice in what you taught me. My mother was a Christian. Billy Sunday wrote that, but I can say amen to it. Her righteousness. It's important that mothers have not only a prayer for each of their children, but that their children are prayed for, that they come to know Christ as their personal Savior, that they will come to invite them into their lives. It's important that they might live eternally. So that's our calling that God gives to fathers and mothers. I grieve my Lord from day to day. I scorned his love so full and free, and though I wandered far away, my mother's prayers have followed me. Or desert wild, or mountains high, a wanderer I chose to be. A wretched soul condemned to die, still my mother's prayers have followed me. He turned my darkness into light, this blessed Christ of Calvary. I'll praise his name both day and night, that mother's prayers have followed me. I'm coming home. I'm coming home to live my wasted life anew. For mother's prayers have followed me my whole life through. Mothers, M-O-T-H-E-R. Mothers, God bless you today. And if you have little ones, you're starting out. But ask God to keep you consistent in your life and live your faith